Ever wondered why some UFC fighters seem to be stuck despite their talent and hard work? They've got the skills, they've got the drive, but for some reason their career doesn't take off as it should. If you think it's just bad luck or bad timing, you're wrong. The real reason might be the contracts they sign. What if I told you that these deals are actually trapping fighters, preventing them from reaching their full potential? That's the harsh reality for many UFC athletes, and it's something fans don't often see. Let's dive into the hidden world of UFC contracts and how they can keep fighters from achieving the success they deserve. When a fighter signs with the UFC, it might seem like they've made it to the big leagues. The spotlight, the big crowds, the potential for massive paydays, it's every fighter's dream. But here's the kicker. UFC contracts are often packed with hidden clauses that limit a fighter's ability to make the most out of their career. Sure, the UFC offers them some big fights early on, but the truth is, those early opportunities can often be misleading. After the initial buzz, fighters are often locked into long-term deals that aren't as beneficial as they might seem. These contracts allow the UFC to control when and where a fighter competes, and many times, the fighters have no say in their career trajectory. They can't pick their opponents, and they definitely can't just take a break when they need it. The UFC holds the power, which means the fighters are at the mercy of the promotion's schedule and priorities. And for a fighter trying to build a name, this can be incredibly limiting. Another major issue with UFC contracts is the exclusivity they require. Fighters who sign with the UFC are often prohibited from fighting in other promotions. Even if a fighter could earn more or grow their brand elsewhere, they are tied to the UFC, and they have to wait for the promotion to offer them a fight. This means that even if a fighter is on a streak and ready to compete, they can't just go out and prove themselves. The UFC controls the game, and that can prevent fighters from reaching their full potential. It's not just about the control over fights, though. The financial aspect of UFC contracts is another major problem. When you look at other major sports leagues, athletes make a significant percentage of the revenue generated by their games. In the UFC, it's a different story. Most fighters receive a small fraction of the revenue from pay-per-view sales, merchandise, and sponsorships, even though they're the ones putting in the hard work and taking the risks in the cage. The UFC profits massively from these deals, but the fighters don't see a fair share of the pie. The money just isn't there for the majority of fighters, and that's a huge issue. And then there's the fact that even when a fighter performs well, the UFC doesn't necessarily reward them accordingly. Sure, big names like Conor McGregor or Khabib Nurmagomedov might rake in massive paydays, but for most of the roster, the pay is significantly lower. Fighters who are just starting out or haven't built a huge following are stuck with low wages, even if they've been putting in years of hard work. The UFC knows they have the upper hand, so they set the terms in a way that benefits them far more than the fighters. Now, I want to take a moment to thank you for reading and sticking with me through this. You're not just here for the flashy headlines or the latest gossip. You're actually diving into the issues that affect fighters on a deep level, and that's something worth recognizing. These fighters deserve better, and the more we talk about it, the more pressure we can put on the system to change. So thank you for caring about the real side of UFC and the struggles that many athletes face behind the scenes. So what can be done? The truth is, the UFC has a massive amount of control, and breaking free from these contracts is no easy feat. It requires a lot of courage, a bit of luck, and a willingness to stand up for what's right. Fighters need contracts that give them more control, more freedom, and a fairer share of the money they're helping generate. They need the ability to choose their path, to fight when they're ready, and to make the money they deserve. Until that happens, the UFC will continue to control the sport, and the fighters will remain stuck in a system that's far from fair.